Welcome to the Sports Show. Mike, Max, Patrick, Royce, Lavelle, E. Neal, and Sid Hartman. Sydney, how are you today?
I'm okay, much better.
Allergies got the better of you there for a bit, huh?
Yes, sir. And Pat Ricey, Dr. Pat Ricey tells me that the allergies are the worst.
They are bad.
Everything's a month late this year. I have never seen so much cotton coming off the cottonwood trees as I've seen the last 3 days.
Yep.
And that's supposed to happen in the middle of May, isn't it?
That's
the
what I
middle
was
of
led to
July. It's like a snowstorm out there.
We're just having our April showers now.
Yeah, it gets you about 8 different ways.
We're going to have July
My
flowers.
money pit in the back got all clogged up with cottonwood cotton, and I had dang near cost me some money.
Is the pool going?
Yeah.
Is the pool going?
Yeah. I've been in once. It's great.
Sid, you come back home, you go 2 and 4 on the road. You always talk about you got to go 500 on the road, play above 500 at home. Now here they are, 3 and 3 again.
Well, Mr. Lavelle here thought I asked a stupid question.
That is not what I said.
I couldn't see much to write there. And one thing that really pees me off that the organization does nothing about, you got to wait there forever for a guy to come out if you do want to write about him.
Yeah.
So I asked him who was the most...
Wait, you asked Ron Gardner or what?
I asked Gardner if Hunter, no doubt, was the biggest loss of all the free agents.
Okay.
I thought that was a good little...
That wasn't the problem. The problem was the other question you asked about the homestand. You said, you guys are playing a lot of games at home during this homestand. And Garden came out after the presser was over. We're in the clubhouse waiting for Dozier to come out. Garden comes out and says, that's got to be the top 10 stick question of all time.
I said homestand?
That's fine.
Yes.
Don't worry about it.
Anyway, back to the team.
They are playing a lot of
3
games.
hits.
This was... Racey said a week ago, and he's right, this homestand is going to make or break them if they don't win.
I didn't say that because they're broken.
They were broken a long time ago.
Doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
Don't blame
said
me
the
for that.
homestand was very important.
I don't remember
Whether
that,
you're
but go
gonna
ahead.
finish 4th or 5th. That's the only 2 options.
That's it, man. That's what they said. That's what they said.
Now, their lineups. The idea that's the only problem was starting pitching in their lineup was okay. I guess we put the lie to that with 3 hits in the last
4 games.
3 hits in 3 of the last 4 games.
That's unbelievable. The offense has been horrible. They're averaging 2.6 runs a game over the last 12 games.
Yeah.
And only one time over that 12-game span have they scored more than 4 runs.
Well, you know the problem. You know why that happens? They got a lot of lousy hitters.
Well, usually
they do. They got a lot of guys that are easy out.
I think they took it for granted. They thought that Maurer, Morneau, Domit, and Willingham were going to be the good core.
Yeah.
I think they took it for granted that Dozier was going to be take another step forward. I think they took it for granted that Plouffe was going to take a step forward, and that Aaron Hicks is going to take good at bats at the top of the order, and it will be at least a functional offense. And none of that has happened. So now you don't know how they're coming up with runs. They don't have catalysts. They don't have bus riders, and they don't have bus drivers.
I got news for you, fellas. By the time Cleet Thomas is done playing, we'll be excited to get Aaron Hicks back. By the time Cleet plays for 2 weeks, we'll be saying, when's that kid coming back?
That's the thing about Cleet. If he plays for a 2-week span, then he gets exposed. So we're week 1 into that 2-week span.
Can you explain to me again in the offseason? Because we brought this up about what if Aaron Hicks isn't the guy. There were just no other veteran center fielder. Usually you find a guy that's a little long in the tooth but can pick up the pieces. There was no one, huh?
They thought they could get by with what they had. They thought if, they still had Joe Benson in the organization. So they figured, Benson would get a shot at Fix Falters or Darren Mastriani would play. But Mastriani hasn't proven himself to be an everyday player yet. And Benson can't hit 200. He's not with the Texas Rangers organization.
Well, Mr. Ryan says scoring runs won't be any problem. If we can pitch, we'll do pretty good. Well, I thought the pitching was pretty good. Against the Phillies, not bad. Not bad against Detroit, but you got 1 hit going in the 9th inning, and you score how many runs they scored in 2 series.
Yeah.
I don't know, fellas, but anyone who's surprised that the Tigers beat the Twins 2 out of 3 is...
No, let's go back. Okay, let's just look at one
Tigers
move.
are hell.
Let's look at one move. Vance Worley for Ben Revere. What would the standings be if
Trevor
Revere
May better? Nothing. 2 games.
They made the trade to get Trevor May. Trevor May's supposed to have
Correct.
upside and be a guy
Correct.
who can join the rotation in a couple of years. He's still a AA, and he's having mixed results. Sometimes he pitches well. Other times he's walking 4 or 5 batters, which was the issue when that was a scout report on him when he came over from the Philadelphia organization. So Worley's supposed to be just a functional guy, but he's at Rochester trying to find himself.
He ain't.
Yeah.
No.
Well, let's see what happens with those big stars in the lower leagues, how great they are and all that kind of stuff. All I've been reading about Kansas City, you read the Kansas City internet and all they talk about the greatest minor leagues and all that stuff. They're winning some games now, but overall they've done a lousy job.
I used to cover the Royals, and this is about their 4th rebuilding plan since I left.
It is. Yeah, they changed the way they rebuilt.
Ever since they got well against the Twins, they've been playing pretty good. They're going to be 500.
Well, see, George Brett's the hitting coach there now. They got Mike Moustakas and Eric Hosmer who are benefiting from that, hopefully.
Take a break, come back. You're watching The Sports Show. Stay with us.
Hosmer, damn near.
Perfect time to see Pat over at J.D. Hoyt's and then head over to the ballpark. Watch the Twins, not too far away. And J.D. Hoyt's has it going all year long. But, boy, in the summer, you can sit outside and do all kinds of fun things. Welcome back to the Sports Show. Tom Mee and Eddie Guardado went into the Twins Hall of Fame. Explain Tom Mee. People, we know what he did from the outside, but explain who he was.
Tommy, for years, worked for the St. Paul Saints. Mel Jones, a guy that nobody really liked, was the general manager, and Tom had to solve a lot of problems with him. He didn't think newspapers were important at all. And then when the Washington Senators moved here, Herb Heft came here with the package, and he didn't like living here at all. Always complaining all the time to me about the weather and everything else. And finally, an assistant job opened up on the Mets, and he went there, and Tom Mee was named the full-time PR guy. I can't recall who his assistant was.
Jim Rance for a while.
Was it Rancy first?
Huh?
Rancy was an intern there for a while. That's what Rance was originally.
And that's all they had. And he was a PR man, and Fox tried to undermine him a lot.
Jim Rance was named the assistant, and he couldn't type.
Assistant PR guy, huh?
Tom gave him a page of notes to do one day, and Rancy tells the story like 3 hours later. Rancy's still going like this. That was quite an operation back then.
Lean, huh?
Little lean. They ran her a little lean.
That's why Rance never returned my emails when he was a farm director. They used to send
He
him
did not open them, huh?
That's right.
Eddie Guardado. Patrick, you wrote about him, one of the guys that I probably enjoyed covering the most over the years.
Great guy, and people look at his overall ERA. It's 4.5 or something with the Twins. Well, because they tried to use him as a starter. It was about 14 then, but I've always said he got more out of less than any Twins pitcher ever, man. He had a slider that broke about this far. He had a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, never had a changeup, and I ran across a story that he struck out Bernie Williams once with a little sinker, and such he started calling it the Bernie because he threw it so seldom. They called it the Bernie because he got
only
one
for Bernie
strikeout
Williams.
and then of course Aguilera taught him the split finger, and then that helped him a little.
It was the perfect confluence. So when they needed a closer, LaTroy Hawkins had failed, and Guardado worked out.
Yeah, he did work out, and he wanted the job, and he definitely. That shows you there have been closers in baseball who have succeeded without top drawer stuff. John Franco was Eddie's counterpart in the National League and got a lot of saves with the Mets. Although I think he had one really good.
If you don't mind walking the plank, you can be a closer.
Yes, you can.
If you don't mind having 2 on and 2 outs, it's okay. Drive Sid crazy.
Eddie was one of the greatest all-time guys to cover because you knew what the attitude of the clubhouse was just by talking to Eddie. He would give you the dope and he would scream and holler. And I've had run-ins with Eddie and laughed about it afterwards. I remember one time Eddie played a prank on me before a game. He walked up to me and said, I read the paper today, and you wrote a hell of a story. I thought that was real. I just want to shake your hand and appreciate it very much. Shook my hand. He had put on a batting glove and put a wad of pine tar in it. So when we shook hands, my hand was covered in pine tar. And if you talk to Matt Lawton or Ron Coomer, I chased Eddie halfway up the stairs in the old Metrodome.
What were you going to say? You were going to say something?
I don't know. I think I wasn't a big Eddie G. I don't want to talk about it on the.
Well, you guys didn't get along that well,
Why would you not get along?
Why did you like Eddie? Everybody liked Eddie.
I'll tell you during the commercial break.
Well, I think my.
I know where you're headed with that one.
No. But you know what? The Twins Hall of Fame has kind of become an interesting deal. They wear the sport coats with the TC on it and the whole bit.
Well, they make a big deal out of it and put all the chairs on the, and it's a nice event for the families. I was glad to see all Tom Mee's family there, and he's got a bad leg. I went down to Mayo Clinic, and he's got problems with that leg. He can hardly walk. Mayo tried to help him, and I don't believe they helped him too much, but Tom had a problem with his wife. She wants to go up to the North Woods all the time and live there. They built a house up there, and she wanted to go up there, and he finally won the battle. I don't think they go up there anymore.
Who's next? Knobloch? They're going to have Knobby time pretty soon.
Who is next? They are running. You got to admit, they're running down this.
Well, until the Johan generation
comes up. Morneau and
I'd say they got two guys. They can have Knobloch or Tovar.
Cesar Tovar.
Tovar.
You pushed for Cesar Tovar.
Give me an idea. Who do you compare Tovar to, modern day? Who have we seen that would compare to? Because I was thinking about this the other day.
Well, we weren't big on base percentage back there, and he was a great leadoff hitter. And back then, I don't know, maybe somebody would say his on base percentage, but who would I compare him to?
Michael Bourne?
I don't know if I'd be good at next week.
He'd play anywhere.
Cesar Tovar, you liked him?
I got a story about that. We're covering the meeting at Cincinnati, and Calvin doesn't know anything about the deal. Sherry Robertson makes the deal.
Jerry Arrigo.
Huh?
Gary Arrigo for Cesar Tovar.
And I went up to Calvin's room, and I thought they were going to kill each other. I hear them screaming at each other and then the deal, and it turned out to be a pretty good deal, I thought.
It was a great deal.
You know, I was thinking was, in this day and age, like Ben Revere comes to town the other night, we have seen so many great highlights of Ben Revere over the last few years. When Cesar played, there's no footage,
I go on what he tells me.
Exactly. And I'm thinking, so how do you know who to compare him to? Because, I remember him, but, take a break, come back, stay with us.
Good publicity.
Stop on by Audi Minneapolis. Bruce Bonine and his whole staff out there just waiting for you to walk through the door. Q7, A4, A6, they're all great vehicles. Perfect time to test drive during the summer months. Welcome back to the sports show. Mike Max, Patrick Royce, Lavelle, E. Neal, and Sid Hartman. U.S. Open, Sid, did it go the way you thought it would?
I watched a lot of it because I was confined to my house.
That's the only way.
There are so many new names that you never heard of. Tiger Woods is no longer winning every tournament.
Until his last two tournaments, he was having a hell of a year.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
Well, how do you figure it out?
How do you figure out how that the shortest open course they've played in years, nobody's hitting a driver, and nobody could keep the ball out of the rough. They made the fairways about as wide as this table, and nobody could keep the ball out of the junk. And when's the last time over par one?
I was going to ask that. I can't remember. That's the same question. And the thing is, if you missed a fairway, the rough wasn't just a little rough. It was very rough.
That was,
and then beyond that, it was just fescue and absolutely ugly. I mean, there were some terrible shots.
Mickelson, no. This is almost as good a feat as winning it 3 or 4 times. He's now finished second six times.
That's pretty hard to do.
Hard to finish second 6 times.
And the fans were cheering for him. They were trying to force him to make a run and at least force a playoff. But Phil stumbled toward the end.
Phil, Sidney, when Tom Lehman used to play here, you got to know Phil Mickelson. What'd you think of him?
I thought he was all right. I thought the golfers were fine in all the tournaments they've had here. I interviewed Nicholson a couple times, got him on the radio a couple times. Why, is he supposed to be a bad guy?
No,
he's a fan favorite.
But he made this red-eye...
He's Eddie Guardado of golf.
He made this red-eye flight out to his girl's 8th grade graduation. He made his red-eye in a $43 million Gulfstream that he owns. It's got 3 beds in it.
Yeah.
I got so sick of that. pick me up and I'll go anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
I'll just sleep in the back.
Yeah, I just sleep and then I wake up and I have breakfast. Somebody serves me breakfast.
They were like, how can Phil do this? It's simple.
Maxie, you're a father, though, and Sid's gone through it with his grandkids. 8th grade graduation. Give me a break.
When did this happen?
I don't know, but I'm glad I had my kids a long time ago.
I know, but
when I didn't have to
I thought the same thing. When do we have graduations for 8th grade?
I went to Catholic school, so I graduated. I had 8th grade graduation.
In Sydney, I mean, if
I
you
went
got
to
there,
a graduation where 800 kids graduated
for Wayzata
at Mariucci Arena.
What was that like? How do they do that?
Boy, you couldn't wait till the thing ended.
Hartman, did they do it alphabetical?
Yeah.
So you could leave.
You were
after
out the door.
ages
Yeah.
Anyway. So you could leave after like 4
All
hours.
I got to do is walk out of there. I heard booze, I think.
I got a good one for you, fellas. I graduated in 50 years, 1963, in Prior Lake with 50.
All right. In Prior Lake?
In Prior Lake, 50 of us. 1963. My grandniece just graduated with 565
in Prior Lake.
Wow.
57 kids in Gaylord, and it's probably still about 57 kids in Gaylord.
Well, now your graduations are different. First of all, they have an all-night party.
Yeah.
I know they were locked until 4 in the morning.
Well, that's to keep them from being out in the streets.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have a big, nice party for Hunter, where all his buddies there. So it's a lot different deal.
It's a cash.
It's like
cash
when
grab.
I was.
If you would have graduated, would you have had a party?
Pardon me?
If you would have graduated from high school, would you have had a party?
Absolutely not. I had in the Jewish ratio, when you're 13, you have a bar mitzvah.
Yeah.
Right.
My father bought 24 Snickers.
That was it.
And he ran out and he had to go get 10 more Snickers. That's what you got.
I think we ought to get Sid his GED and throw a hell of a party.
I think we should too, man.
I'm sure we can find a school to give him an honorary degree.
Snickers cost a nickel.
Take a break, come back, finish up when we come back. It is the Sports Show. There it is. Big thank you to the sponsors, Olson, Thielen, Tradition, Fagery, Baker, Daniels, and don't forget to stop by Bar Abilene. Say hi to Wayne and the entire crew. It's kind of fun here on the Sports Show. Once in a while I get an interesting email. I teach 6th grade up in Brainerd, it says, and I've always had my Sid Hartman bobblehead on my desk. My kids love it. Got a nice picture of Sid with one of my students, Allison. I always watch the Sports Show. There it is, Sid.
Hey, look
from
at
Brainerd, Minnesota.
How do you like that?
Yeah, that's you. That's you.
Pretty desperate.
He probably thinks it's Harry Truman.
I haven't shown the picture. I got it on my cell phone. I'll have to show it to Sid. My son, the Major,
Yeah.
was home a couple weeks ago, and we got a picture of him with his favorite sports writer, Sid, the statue, down by Target.
Did he get one?
We got one, yeah.
Yeah.
He's down by
I don't have a Sid Hartman bobblehead. How can I
How
get
long is he
one?
going to be in?
Until they make him a lieutenant colonel or he retires, one of the two.
Well,
Sydney, the NBA, when you watch the San Antonio Spurs and what they do with Popovich, it drives you nuts, doesn't it, to see how they find players?
well, Popovich gets a lot of credit that he deserves, but he's got an assistant coach that a couple of guys in the league tell me he's an absolute genius, and several clubs have tried to hire him, but they give him almost head coach's money, and if you watch the games, you'll see that guy doing some talking all the time, whatever his name is. And somebody just hired one of their front office guys.
Be the GM,
Yeah.
Maxie, would you rather, if you were a sideline reporter, would you rather do the halftime with Popovich or Belichick? Who would you prefer?
You know what? I sat by the San Antonio huddle one time with Bill Pop. You know, he's got the good tickets. And Popovich, I really want to see it. So Popovich is from me to you. Wait, LaBelle. And he calls timeout, and he takes Anthony Parker apart. You know, you always think these are the sacred cows. He sits him down,
Tony
and in
Parker.
no uncertain Tony Parker, I'm sorry, in no uncertain terms, he's like this. If you're going to play, you're going to do. And I was just stunned. And that Parker didn't. You know, he just went out and played then. You know, but he must have a respect that he can get away with anything he wants.
Well, you got 3 great players on that team, and he has complete control of them. Kevin McHale will tell me about that, how he controls those guys, and they just do what he wants them to do.
Stanley Cup Finals. Patrick, your thoughts?
I think the Bruins, I hate to tell you this, but I think they're a little too tough for them, and they got better goaltending.
They definitely have a better goalie. The goal that Corey Crawford gave up in game 2 was terrible. That's where everybody's shooting at. They're shooting on glove side because he's just not consistent there. So I'm legitimately worried.
So we don't have to go to midnight.
I think Boston's a tough team to crack, and I think he's right. Rask in goal is going to be a tough goalie to try to score on. And I think my Hawks are in trouble. I still think
that is funny that
I still think they're going to win, but it's going to be tough.
In Boston, it's over at 1 a.m. Think about that on a weeknight. All right. Did you have a final thought?
Whatever you say.
Okay. See you back here next week. Thanks for watching the sports show. Happy Father's Day and have a good week, everybody.
Go Hawks.